Welcome to faith.org. Today I'm going to be going over chaos dynamics request that I address Epicurus's arguments. Epicurus was a Greek philosopher, and he states, "Is God willing to prevent evil but is not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able, then not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God?" Epicurus, 341 BCE to 270 BCE. Basically, the argument is, why do bad things happen to good people? That's the basic crux of the argument, as I take it. And the argument is truly missing the point. It misses the point because it lacks the reference for life, because it is actually only referring to the human element or the human experience in life. It's not referring to plants and trees and animals. It's referring to human element. Evil as it is referenced to the human being. Therefore, let's get into why. I'm going to have to recite a verse. Because he referenced God for the situation. He didn't talk about good and evil outside of reference of God. So I will reference God in response to Epicurus' statements, and then explain what is going on. Okay? From the Quran, Surah 51, verse 56. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. And I, Allah, created not the jinn and mankind except that they should worship me. This, in a nutshell, is the meaning of life. It's a test. It's a test just like any test that you receive to find out whether or not you're worthy enough to do some other function. That's the point of the experience on this planet. It is a test. Failing that test has dire consequences. This life is not the reality. The reality is what comes after this life. This life is only, on the cosmic scale of things, a fraction, an infinitesimal fraction of a second of reality. So much so that on the Day of Judgment, this whole life will seem as if it was only passing for a day. Now, once you put things into the context of what this life is, being a test to see whether or not you as a human being will hold forth to your duty, it then brings into context of what everything in this life entails. What is important in this life? And if you view things from what is important, then you'll be able to understand everything else that comes after that. Now, getting into the whole question of good and evil. Evil exists in the human interaction as directly defined by lack of interaction. Lack of interaction is what creates evil. In other words, we would not say that the American government is evil. However, corruption in government comes from a lack of public involvement in the affairs of what happens in government. Public apathy creates corruption. If the public is vigilant in the terms of how its government is maintained, then there's less corruption that will happen. If a populace is apathetic to those things which are evil, then what will happen is that evil will become dominant. If a public is apathetic to what is ignorant, then ignorance will become dominant. And the human being has, with his free will, the ability to accept the responsibility or to reject the responsibility. There's a set of verses or a story in the Quran, and I'm not going to recite it, about the Gog and the Magog people. You have the Gog and the Magog people, and they are wreaking havoc on this community. And that's what they do. And Dhul Qarnayn comes upon this people, and they ask him for help. And he says, yeah, I can help you, but I'm going to need you, all of you people are going to have to do the work. It's just not, I'm going to roll in on the scene and do all this myself. It's kind of like one police officer or one superhero, or in communities where superheroes exist, and the people don't feel that they have to do anything because it's the superhero's job to come around and fix the situation. That's not the reality of how things happen. And it has absolutely nothing to do with God, because the test is, are you going to worship? And if you worship, then there would be no evil, because your worship would check that evil. Just like if the citizens are vigilant, there will be no corruption. Or there will be very, very little corruption. If there's a clear written guideline and everybody follows the guideline, then that's what it's going to be. But if you don't, then it's going to be averse from that. And that's where evil comes in to place. But whether or not evil is or evil isn't is irrelevant in terms of God, explaining God, the reality of God, and anything to do with God. Because this place is a testing ground. It's a test to see if you are going to do what you're supposed to do. And if you fail to do that, then evil or negative consequences will be the result of that action.